Hello YouTube, in this episode of the Hypertrophy series, we're going to detail and try and comprehend one of the main benefits of intensity when it comes to assessing risk to reward ratio. So intensity, of course, as I explained in previous videos, is used to gauge the amount of exertions you're going to have to exert to get through a lift. It's going to help you calculate your tonnage. It is something that is very important for progression in the long term, but it also has the ability to help you stay injury free. You're going to find that certain lifts are going to respond completely differently to high intensity than other lifts, some of which is going to be objective throughout the board and is going to be true for most individuals. You're also going to have to find that because of your own personal leverages, because of your own personal history of injuries, you have certain lifts that are going to be dangerous to push in terms of intensity. And once you understand that, you can use that intensity to make sure that you stay always healthy, that you never get snapped up. Because keep in mind that since natural bodybuilding and hypertrophy is a long-term pursuit, it is something that can be stopped in its tracks by a bad injury. And when that happens, it's a setback, but really what is a setback? A setback is a time period during which you cannot accumulate tonnage and therefore your muscles do not grow. And we want to avoid that at all costs. So this is how we're going to do it. You are going to apply the principles of intensity to your training to make sure that you always push tonnage, that you're always in the right window of intensity to progress and put more weight on the bar, but also that you never go too far and you never get either an overuse injury or a freak accident happen to you. Keep in mind that I've explained in previous videos, intensity doesn't exist outside of volume, and a set of 12 can be done at a higher intensity than a set of 3. It all depends on your weight selection. But outside of that, my personal opinion on the risk to reward ratio when it comes to lifts and their intensity is that I personally have noticed that injuries tend to happen when you reverse the negative portion of the lift and you start moving into the positive portion of said lift. And I have almost never seen people get injured during the negative, and I never see people get injured at the top of the positive. It's always when you try and use your body to push that weight back up, and it's usually either at the very end of the negative when you try to reverse the power and you're trying to bring that kinetic energy back, or when you just started on the positive and your body's position becomes compromised and it snaps. By telling you that, you should immediately have noticed that this means that certain lifts are going to be more dangerous than others. And in my opinion, the lifts that start with a negative phase are the most dangerous. Why? Because you're going to use elastic energy to get that weight up. So that, for example, would be true for the squat, it would be true for the bench. And this is where a lot of people will disagree, because the deadlift is not part of these lifts. The deadlift only has a positive portion because you don't hold the negative, you just let it go. And for me, it is true. A pull from the floor is super healthy. It is that the issue is that a lot of people do it with way too much weight and with poor form, and they grind reps that they shouldn't be grinding. That's why they get their lower back hurt when they do deadlifts. And that it also means that with certain lifts, because of the position you end up into when you try and reverse the negative into the positive, trying to go high intensity on them is going to be more dangerous and is going to put you at more risk than it would be able to give in terms of benefits. It's not going to be worth your time going low reps on these lifts, because the hypertrophy gains you will get from them wouldn't even be that good compared to the risks if something bad happened. And that, for me, for example, a perfect example of that would be good mornings. The issue with good mornings is that if you do them properly, the end of the rep should leave you with your back parallel to the floor. And then you reverse the motion to end up vertical and straight. The amount of stress on your lower back, on your hamstrings, on your SI joint, when you're in that position is fairly immense. And the truth too is that this is not really a lift that you can safely protect from with spotter arms. Because if you put the arms where you should be parallel with the floor, you run the risk of cutting short the range of motion and hitting the arms. And if you put them deeper, well, the position in which you will be able to dump the bar will still have your torso be below parallel, and just that flexion like this could be enough to snap something. This is why, contrary to what a lot of strength training principles espouse, I tell people to stay within a 6 to 10 or 8 to 12 rep range when it comes to good mornings. There is no reason to go at 100% intensity for 5 reps, doing 1 rep maxes like I know some people do. I think that for bodybuilding and for hypertrophy, it is completely useless, it is dangerous. Now, what I just said for the good morning, you can apply the same logic for a lot of lifts. And some of which will be objective, some of which will be based on your preferences. For me, for example, I will never do less than 4 reps on the squat. Why? Because I've had a bad history of injuries with my knees, and I have always found that my form tends to turn into a good morning, or I have some knee cave when I go too low and when I try and push the intensity with low rep ranges. It doesn't mean that I don't use intensity for my squats. I still do high intensity, but I will stay within a weight that I can rep for 4 minimum, and I will push it to 8. That is my personal preferences. On the other hand, I push the deadlift super hard and I do 2 rep maxes. Again, personal preferences, because for me this works. The way for me and the way to apply this logic is, as I said at the start of the video, using intensity for that purpose. Even though this is not the number one purpose of intensity, you can still apply it like this, because injuries are a byproduct of intensity. And some people will see it as a negative and refuse to do anything intense in their training, which I think is detrimental. But if you think about it, you can turn that into a positive, because now it's becoming a gouging tool to make sure that you stay healthy. And the same principle can also be applied to volume. Volume can be more than something that is just beneficial for muscle hypertrophy. It can also be used to judge your ability to recover from work. But that is going to be a topic for a different video. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions about the risk to reward ratios of lifts in relation to intensity, if you want to discuss a certain lifts in the comments, let me know. I would be happy to talk with you. Have a good day.